All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today, ACA Mismanagement, What Everyone's Learned and the Game Plan for 2017. My name is Amanda, and I'll be your moderator today. ERISA attorney Larry Grudzien is our presenter. I know this is a topic on everyone's minds right now, and there's a lot of information to take in. Don't worry if you miss something. We'll be emailing you a recording and the slides after the webinar concludes. I'm going to keep everyone muted to make sure that we don't get any background noise. Larry will pause periodically for questions. Just hit the raise hand button and I'll unmute you so you can ask. If you'd prefer typing, you can ask the questions in the box below and I'll read them out loud for you. Our next webinar is Intertwined Guidelines, Untangling Your Enrollment Notice Requirement, and it's on December 27th at 1 p.m. We hope to see you there. For now, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Larry.
Thank you very much. Ever since Trump got elected, the major question in everybody's mind is what's going to happen in 2017. And especially the first between the Congress and the President, what's going to happen to ACA and benefits in general, I think. It's extremely important. So over the last probably month, I've been reading tons of articles and talking to people and getting a consensus of what people feel. And this is a culmination of all of this as I go through this, because I went through all the proposals. I went through all the Republican proposals to see exactly and glean about what's going to happen. Now, I think the major difference between Trump and the Democrats is the ACA did a stick type of approach in penalizing employees and individuals for them to offer health insurance. I think the approach that you're going to see with the Republicans is quite different. Instead of a stick, it's a carrot. I think what they're going to do, instead of penalizing people, one of the things I think you're going to see in all the proposals I'll be talking about is giving people credit to buy insurance. So instead of penalizing them, give people money, a tax credit, in order to buy insurance. And I have some thoughts about where this can lead us in the next 3 to 4 years. But I will be talking about what's going to happen with ACA, what's going to happen with benefits in general. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is talking about 3 proposals. And over the past couple of years, 3 proposals have arisen in regard to benefits in ACA. One is, of course, during the campaign, Trump did some proposals, both income tax and benefit proposals. And I'll be talking about that. And a trend that involves. And then through this attempt to repeal Obamacare, there's been House GOP proposals. And I'll be covering that. And then Price, Representative Price, it's extremely important because he's going to be the new HHS head. And he's going to have all kinds of influence of exactly what's going to be coming down the pike in HHS. Because they're the ones that are administering Obamacare. So I'll be talking about that proposal. Next, I'll be talking about possible changes. What could happen with health care reform, other welfare benefits, individual income tax, retirement income, executive rewards, and worker protection. All this are benefit related. And then I'm going to give some suggestions on the floor of what the next steps. Please, throughout this presentation, I'll be, as Amanda indicated, I'll be stopping for questions. And again, I'll be trying to make this as much fact-based, but some speculation. So let's see exactly, first of all, what the 3 proposals are. And the key finding, especially in the tax sense of what Trump's going to do, his plan will significantly reduce income taxes and corporate taxes, and he's going to try to eliminate the estate tax. The plan would reduce federal income between $4.4 trillion and $5.9 trillion on a static basis. And I think a lot depends on the business policy and what he gets through. Now, his plan would significantly reduce marginal cost of capital, which would lead to higher long-run levels of GOP wages and full-time equivalent jobs. That's what's hoped. when reducing income tax. It's always the hope whether it's going to actually develop, because what the philosophy is, if we reduce income taxes, businesses will use those additional income they're getting now because of not paying tax, and whether that's going to be, probably it's going to be interesting. So after accounting for the larger economy and broader tax base, the plan would reduce revenues by between 2.6 trillion and 3.9 trillion after accounting for a larger economy. And again, that last bullet is pure speculation. It's hopeful. Hopeful that the fact that the economy will get going again, and whether it's going to happen, nobody knows at this point, but that's what they're speculating. Bullets, the speculation. Plan reduces revenue substantially less than his plan that Trump proposed last year. This is when he first got into race. The plan would lead to at least a 0.8% higher after-tax income for all taxpayers. The plan would lead to a 10.2% higher income for the top 1% of the taxpayers, and 16% higher depending on the nature of the key business provisions. Now, what he does on the individual income tax, it's not going to be severe. It's not going to be substantial reductions. So he consolidates 7 tax brackets into 3. Rates of ordinary income are going to be 12, 25%, and 33%. He adopts current rates of capital gains and dividends on new brackets, and he eliminates the head of household status tax filing. So it's going to be interesting what the effect of that last one is. Now, this is what I just talked about, and the significant decrease is going to be on gains. So right now there's 7 brackets in the ordinary, but that's going to be substantial. So it's going to be interesting how that affects the economy. Now, eliminates an income tax, increases standard up from 6.3 thousand to 15,000 for singles and 12,000 to 30,000 for married filing jointly. But eliminates the personal exemption and introduces other child care related provisions that makes child care costs deductible from adjusted gross income. So that's going to significantly change how we, because in the past, in order to do this, you had to go through a dependent care program. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, what I think is going to happen, this is pure speculation on my part, it's going to be interesting to follow what individual deductions are going to be taken away. Are they going to limit the mortgage deduction? Are they going to eliminate certain personal deductions? Because what they're going to try to do is broaden the base and make sure that lower income individuals pay more taxes. So offers credits, spending credits of $1,200 a year for child care, creates new savings accounts for children on elderly parents, caps individualized deductions of $100,000 for single and $200,000 for married, taxes carried interest as earning an income, and a benefit for many middle-class individuals. It eliminates individual alternative minimum tax. But again, make sure you watch and see what deductions are affected when these proposals start coming in. Yes, go back to the previous slide, the changes are not substantial in the ordinary income rate, but let's see what deductions are limited or eliminated. Now, potential decrease is in the regard to the corporate income tax rate. It's going to go from 35% to 15%. Eliminates corporate alternative minimum tax and allows firms to engage in manufacturing in the U.S. to choose between full expensing, capital investment, and the deductibility of interest time or can only be deducted over a certain period of time. And what they're trying to do with that one is to encourage employers to start building factories and refineries and everything else. Eliminates the domestic production activities deduction and other business tax credits. Enacts a deemed retribution of current deferred profits. They want to bring that profit in. The tax rate is only 10%. And increases the cap for tax credit for employer-provided daycare from $150,000 to $500,000, and reduces the recapture period from 10 years to 5 years. So again, what you're doing in this situation is lowering the corporate rate and also speeding up the deductions. And let's look at benefits. The reason why I talked about the individual and corporate tax rates, because it's going to affect benefits. And I think in that situation, if they're going to decrease the tax rates, I think in that situation, Roth, for example, IRAs and 401ks may be less popular. Of course, what Trump has been talking about is repealing the Affordable Care Act, and it's vowed to completely repeal it as the first order of business. And what the Republicans have indicated, it's not going to be as easy. And Trump has already indicated, which I'll say he wants to keep certain sections. He wants to allow individual insurance to be purchased across state lines. I'll be talking about that in the next few minutes, what could happen in regard to that. Allows individuals to fully deduct health care premium payments on their tax returns. Currently, it's only possible to get a deduction for your premium if those premiums 10% of your income. So you're going to move it from below to above the line. And by doing this, it's going to give the same effect as business owners have, especially self-employed, in deducting individual
muted.
Allow individuals to use health savings accounts in more robust way than the regulations currently allows. And Trump's proposals, as I mentioned, allowing HSAs to be part of an individual, HSAs to be spent by any member of the accountant's owner's family, which is currently possible now with certain limitations. Stress, there is HSAs, and all the Republican proposals are preferred. So what they want to do is, and I'm going to see this all through, they're going to allow higher deductions, higher contributions for HSAs. Also what they're going to do, they're going to probably eliminate the need that you have to be in the high deductible plan. Also, they're going through Congress is to allow FSAs reimbursed over-the-counter drugs, which was the case 3 or 4 years ago. It was eliminated under ACA, and it's going to be brought back. But as we go through this, and you look at the different proposals, HSAs are an extremely important part of all the proposals. Require price transparency from all. That's going to be very interesting because it has been tried over the last 15 years. And that was the whole, I think, argument for consumer-driven healthcare. Give people money and find out how much an operation is or a procedure is, and they can shop. But the problem is the entity that's been finding this are the insurance companies, because it's going to basically disclose what they've negotiated in those deals with providers, and they don't want to know this. A block grant Medicaid to states would remove federal provisions on how Medicaid dollars can and should be spent by the states. Now, the downside of this, and hopefully they put strings on this, where block grant Medicaid money goes to the states, and I'm hoping in this situation the states can't turn around and use it for other purposes. Remove barriers to entry into the free market for pharmaceutical industry. This includes allowing American consumers access to imported drugs. It's good and bad in that situation because the FDA, in order to be, the amounts can be deducted right now, it has to be FDA approved. And there's good and bad in that, in a sense of letting foreign drugs come in. Elimination of recently issued Department of Labor fiduciary regulations. Basically, full disclosure, what's been happening over the past 10 or 15 years, there's been movement in the government to force insurance companies, mutual funds to disclose more hidden fees. And the new fiduciary regulations were supposed to be effective this April. It's been going through 2 or 3 different revisions, and finally they were finalized a few months ago, and they're effective April 1st. So it's going to be interesting for the loosening the executive compensation rules. Previously, probably 2004, it was much easier to give executives executive comp. In 2004, 2003, there was 409 limitations of what could be done on an executive comp basis. Speculation is that Trump's going to loosen those rules and allow executives to get more deferred compensation. And also, there's been speculation there's going to be further cutbacks in IRS guidance and audit activity. There's been increased audits from the DOL, IRS, and HHS in trying to enforce Obamacare. There's been speculation that more money is going to be pulled out of those agencies for other purposes, and less audits are going to be happening. Increased hostility to consideration of non-economic factors in selecting retirement plan investments, and I think in that situation, whether they're going to go full force in forcing investment companies and mutual funds to disclose. And also, there's going to be increased activity at the state level, including establishment of state-sponsored retirement plans for private employers. There's been a movement to spread employer IRAs across various states. I know Illinois has one. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to encourage more of that on the state level. What Trump has promised is a hiring freeze on all federal employees to reduce federal workforce through attrition. Requirement that for every new federal regulation, existing regulations will be eliminated. Cancel every unconstitutional executive order and memorandum and order issued by President Obama. There's a ton of them. And then Affordable Care and Elder Care Act. So again, as we indicated before, more money. They want to give more money to care for children and elderly. And again, more proposals on executive compensation. Okay, stop here. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any typed. If you have one, please just click the little raised hand button below the audio. And when you raise your hand, I can unmute you so you can ask.
Anybody have any questions?
Oh, hold on 1 second. All right. Robert, you're unmuted.
Hello? Robert, are you there?
Unmuted him. I don't know if he has a microphone set up. We can't hear you. If you are trying to ask, please just write it below and I will. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. There you go. We can't hear you if. Here we go.
Hello?
Robert, we can't hear you if you're trying to ask something. If you could just type it in the box below. I'm going to remute him and we'll see. Oh, sorry, just realized he doesn't have a mic. He's going to ask this question. We do have another question. What do you think the likelihood of the HSA being offered to those in a non-qualified HDHP will be?
Yes. I think that's one of the proposals, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where they draw the line on that. So I think it's going to be expanded. As you see in this page, there's under the House GOP plan, they also plan for extends flexibility of HSAs. And one of those proposals is to pretty much let almost everyone have an HSA. Because, and the reason for that, I think it's extremely important because more and more, and more and more individuals are in high deductible plans. So when it was first introduced in 2004, it was a vast minority. Now more and more employers are just offering high deductible plans. So I think they see it as a way of giving people more power in spending their money.
And with
any other question?
Oh, and the other question was with the expansion to child and elder care, do you see any increase in the FSA for child care, which is currently set at $5,000?
They may just expand the credit, and I think they're probably going to raise the limits on dependent care plans, and so I think you're going to see a big increase in that. And again, please remember, all this, everything is going to be scored. It's going to be interesting to see once they get done with the tax provisions, and that's why I explained it, whether the tax provisions are going to support all the proposals and all the giveaways that Trump's talking about. And somebody's going to score if they're going to change the HSA rules. How much is that going to cost the government? I think all that's going to be looked at and make sure that we're not giving away too much.
And how soon do you see that being implemented? Would it be 2017, or do you think closer to 2018?
I think it's probably going to be in the fall of 2017 because all the news reports over the next couple of days is that the Republicans are starting to realize that it's going to be more difficult to get rid of Obamacare than originally thought. And so, and I think because Trump promised in the first 100 days, that may not happen because it's going to be interesting to see what they get rid of. So, but I think it's going to be later, 2017, and maybe into 2018.
All right. What pieces of the ACA might Trump and Congress keep, if any, that will still require the 1095 reporting, or basically handicapping the likelihood that 1095
going to be gone after next year?
Okay.
I think one of the targets, and I'll be this in that one segment, is I think the employer mandate. And I think what the Republicans want to do is give employers carrots instead of sticks, including individuals. I think you're going to see that as a different approach. It's going to be interesting to see whether it works or not. Well, let's continue because some of this is going to be covered by when I'm going to be talking about these different proposals. Looking at the House GOP plan, prohibits pre-existing conditions, and again, that was very popular. And I think that's provisions, again, that both Trump and the Republicans want to keep. Require standard premium rates of individuals with continuous prior coverage, regardless of the applicant's medical conditions. And again, what's the important phrase is, and this is with one of the problems that with Obamacare, people were allowed to jump on and off coverage from year to year, and so if you had a condition or if you discovered something, many marketplaces will allow you to jump on. And what they're saying here is continuous prior coverage. In order for your medical conditions and for pre-existing conditions not to apply, they're going to say, you've got to keep your coverage. You can't have any lapses of coverage. We're going to eliminate the ability of people to jump on and off of coverage. So If you keep your coverage, the insurance company cannot rate you higher because you have a medical condition as long as you keep it. But if you get rid of it, it's going to be interesting to see what penalties the government allows insurance companies to do, and whether they can either deny you coverage or charge you much higher rates if you drop your coverage. So again, it provides for one-time open enrollment for everyone to get you up on their plans, allows dependents up to age 26 on their parents' plan, which again is another extremely popular provision. As far as the practice of imposing lifetime limits, another popular, so that's another provision of Obamacare they're going to keep. Bans coverage, rescission, and cancellations except under certain circumstances. And then the circumstance, and this is again another Obamacare provision, that was because of fraud. And again, provides a monthly refundable tax credit to purchase medical coverage. And again, that's the carrot. So instead of penalizing you, what the Republicans wanted to do is give you a tax credit to help you. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how much that tax credit is going to be and whether it's going to help, because one of the proposals you're going to see this is to eliminate the expansion of Medicaid. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to give people in order to purchase insurance. Caps employs annual income tax exclusion at the level that would ensure continued job coverage. And again, they may limit how much that contribution will be, deduction for medical insurance. And again, this is people ask me about the Cadillac tax. And the Cadillac tax was supposed to go into effect in 2018. They pushed it back to 2020. And many groups, governmental groups, many unions hated the Cadillac tax. And they were pushing, and it's extremely complicated. And the way that I think the new administration can deal with this is limit the amount of the deduction that either an individual or an employer can take for medical coverage. I think that's where you're going to see a simplified version of the Cadillac tax. Instead of penalizing an employer, just limit how much the deduction is going to be. Make it easier for states to enter interstate compacts for pooling. Allow people to purchase a plan license in another state. Now, this is going to be very interesting because the price plan has this too. And what I'm concerned about and what they have to be very, very careful with is that if that's true, you can buy a plan license in another state. So you as an individual, can you go to one of the southern states, then they have less mandates, so therefore the coverage you get in a state like New York or Ohio or Illinois would be much more expensive because they have more state mandates. So how they're going to deal with the state mandate issue, that's what they're going to have to worry about. Or is all the insurance companies are going to go to a few states and set up shop and get contracts approved in those states because they're much cheaper because they have less state mandates. That's what I'm concerned about. Changes current federal Medicaid. What they're looking at is eliminating the expansion and granting to the states. Medicare Part A and B. And one of the proposals you're going to see is the fact they're going to give people the alternative to buy private insurance and eliminate going to Medicare altogether. Again, beginning in 2020, increases the eligibility age for Medicare benefits to align with eligibility age for Social Security. So if you get your Social Security at 66 or 67, then it's going to be tied to when you're eligible for Social Security. And again, there's also talk of increasing the Social Security age, and what's bandied about a lot is age. So some people may not be, in the future, may not be able to get Medicare until age. Beginning in 2014 and this is 2024, gives Medicare beneficiaries a choice of private plans or traditional Medicare program for newly created Medicare exchange, imposes cap on non-economic damages, that's for what we call torts reform, provides $25 billion in federal funding for state risk pools, and that was very popular for that states dealt with people with pre-existing conditions that couldn't get coverage anyplace else. Is that they went through a risk pool, and those were eliminated in 2014 with Obamacare, and those may come back. Also, what's proposed is modifying the rules and wellness programs. If you're an employer that wants to and adopt a wellness program, there's a myriad of rules now over the past 3 or 4 years between the IRS rules, the HHS rules, and the EEOC rules. It's gotten extremely complicated, convoluted, and the problem is that the EEOC rules that were released last year conflicted with the HHS rules that were released in 2013. The HHS rule said that, okay, you could do 30% of the premium, and if you had family coverage and the family was eligible, you could do 30% of the family coverage. The EEOC came out and said, no, that would be a violation of ADA, and we're going to limit it to 30% of single coverage. So there's various differences between the two regulations that are driving employers nuts because it's extremely complicated. And when I explain the wellness rules to most employers, everybody's eyes glaze over because it's just not worth the trouble to do this. And so hopefully the Congress can get together and put together some rules that are much simpler for wellness programs. That would be a vast improvement. Okay, let's stop here. And let's see if anybody has any questions. Amanda?
All right, I don't have typed questions at the moment. Again, just click the raise hand button and leave it up, and I will unmute you in order to ask your questions. Or if you prefer, you can, of course, type them in the question box below, and I'll ask them out loud for you.
And we're also going to have a question at the end, so if you want to wait to the very end, that's no problem. I just wondered if someone, as I'm going through this, if you have one, okay.
All right. We did have one request. If you could move the microphone a bit closer to your mouth, we're losing you a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that better?
It's better for me. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go through under the Price plan. Again, Representative Price from Georgia was a staunch critic of Obamacare. He's a doctor. He's in Georgia. Now he's become the Secretary of HHS. So he's going to be very influential in proposing new guidelines for what's going to replace Obamacare. So seeing what he's proposed in the past is going to be extremely important. So under his price plan, he encourages HSAs. He wants to provide a one-time tax credit to get people started. He wants to increase the maximum contribution. He wants to allow rollovers from FSAs to HSAs. And he wants to HSA contributions for those covered by TRICARE or Medicare Part A. So remember, under the current rules, if you're eligible Medicare, as soon as you become enrolled in Medicare, you can no longer contribute to the HSA. Now they're going to open it up. Now, what I'm afraid of in the situation, what this could be a prediction for, is they're going to start reducing benefits under Medicare. So they're going to give individuals the right to contribute HSA contributions. And same time, they may start reducing the benefits under Medicare. So it provides enhanced premium and benefit protections in the individual market with continuous coverage. And again, just like under the GOP plan, you have to keep your benefits in order to be protected from increases and also coverage. Provides advanced refundable annual credits adjusted for age to purchase individual coverage. Allows individuals to decline Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, and vet benefits in favor of credits. Caps employees' annual income tax deduction, $8,000 for an individual and $20,000 for family. Allows employees to use pre-tax employer dollars to purchase individual market policies. Allows insurers licensed in one state to sell policies in another state, and authorizes interstate compacts to encourage cross-border sales. Now, when you see this, and this is my, again, speculation here, when you see these proposals, one thing that you is the fact that what they're going to try to encourage is more and more people to go into the individual market. And under Obamacare, basically employers could not help employees by individual policies. Now, as part of the 21st Century Act that was passed a couple weeks ago, they changed that for small employers. But I think you're going to see a movement afoot. This is my pure speculation, but I think there's going to be a movement afoot to limit the employer liability for insurance. The reason why I say that is because 25 or 30 years ago, many employers, both large and small, had defined benefit plans. Over time, over the past 20 to 25 years, many employers have gotten rid of their defined benefit plans and have gone into a 401k plan, where basically it's the employee that funds most of their benefits for retirement. In the past, an employer under a defined benefit plan was responsible for the investment. It's turning out to health and welfare is the fact for medical coverage, the employer promised you a benefit. And over the past 10 or 15 or 20 years, that benefit, which originally was a throwaway, is becoming more expensive. What I see in these proposals, if an employer wants to do, is get rid of the group coverage, and employers have to give employees on the individual market by their own coverage. So I think that's something to look at and just see if you see more proposals in that end, or especially in the small and medium-sized markets. Employers are going to be encouraged to limit their liability, but to give their employees a certain amount of money by their own individual policies, and then they're out of the market entirely. So if you have a problem with your coverage, you don't come to me, the employer, go to Blue Cross, to Aetna. You go to the other carriers and figure out what happened. I'm not in that market anymore. I'm going to limit my liability. I'm only going to give you so much per year to buy your own coverage. And if you want something more expensive, hey, it's your dime. I think in these proposals right here, you're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. Repeals ACA Medicaid and CHIP provisions, including Medicaid expansion. Again, what they want to do is give individuals a tax credit of money to go into individual market, eliminates current reductions in certain physician charges payable by Medicare patients. Right, Medicare patient, they're limited how much they can charge. They want to eliminate those restrictions. Change legal proof of establishment of medical malpractice, and it's going to be those alleging malpractice have to have more of a burden. Individuals and small business together to buy insurance. Now, currently, that's the NEWA rules, and many states have restrictive provisions or regulations that a person can get together. Some states like Florida, Ohio, you have to be a member of an association to band together. I think what they're going to try to do is limit the rules, because in the 80s and 90s, especially in the state of Florida and other states, people were setting up these MEWAs and luring employers in there and then scanning with the money. So states, the federal government gave the power to regulate MEWAs, multiple employer plans to the state. Some states outright prohibited, other states put severe limitations on. In Wyoming and Illinois, they prohibit self-insured MEWAs. I think you're going to see movement afoot to expand those rules. Increases HIPAA wellness incentive to 50% for cost. And again, currently it's 30% for the normal wellness benefit. It's up to 50% for non-smoking. Okay, let's look, the next few minutes, let's look at the possible changes. Again, in this part of the program, it's pure speculation. So employer mandate, I think either 2017 or 18, it's gone. Again, it's going to be replaced with a carrot. It's going to give employers credit and subsidies to both on the group side and the individual side. Same thing with the individual mandate. Individual mandate is going to be done away with fairly quickly, either 2017 or 2018, replaced with credit deductions. Warning that 1094 and 1095, I think you're going to see it in place for 2016. They're not going to eliminate that, but it will be probably eliminated for 2017. Non-discrimination rules that have been promised for 6 years are probably gone. So that means that if your coverage is insured, there still will not be any non-insured plans. The Cadillac Act is one of the first to be done away with. It's extremely unpopular both for unions and governments. But the way they're going to deal with that is, instead of putting a tax on, it's limited deductions that both individuals and employers can take for medical insurance or medical benefits. One thing, and I didn't see any proposals on this, and I'm going to be interested to see how on the small plan market, on the individual plan market, there's something called the essential health benefits. 10 different benefits had to be included in health coverage. I haven't seen any proposals from both Republicans and Democrats to change this. It's going to be interesting to see how it's reasons why coverage on the exchange has increased so much is because the essential health benefits include benefits that increase costs. So in that situation, I'm interested to see how they deal with this. Pre-existing conditions, yes. Pre-existing conditions will go away, but there's going to be conditions on pre-existing conditions. If your coverage, continuous coverage, insurance companies can't deal with them, cannot write you up and penalize you. But as soon as you drop coverage, it's going to be interesting to see this, whether an insurance company can either reimpose pre-existing conditions or increase the premiums in certain situations. So please look for that. Expansion of Medicaid, gone. Individuals currently covered under Medicaid, I think what's going to happen is they're going to be given credits and deductions to buy their Medicaid's not going to go away, but I think they're going to limit those individuals that receive Medicaid. And at age 26, I think It's going to stay. It's very popular. All proposals have it. Marketplace. It's going to be interesting to see how the Trump administration deals with the various different marketplaces in the 50 states, whether they're going to dismantle it. None of the proposals have indicated what they're going to do, what they're going to use the mechanism. And again, the government spent billions of dollars to put up these marketplaces in 50 states, and I'd be very surprised if they go away. Full-time employee definition, I think that's gone. One of the criticisms of Obamacare, they set the hour at 30 hours. I think that's going to go by the wayside. I think that was the most criticized. Health FSA limitation, I think as part of Obamacare, it was limited to $2,500. I can see that limit increasing or done away with. So I think you're going to see health FSAs and HRAs having a preferred method of paying for health care. Same thing with freestanding HRAs. Again, part of the bill that was passed a few weeks ago, they've been expanded. Freestanding now are going to be allowed for employers less than 50 employees. I think that's going to be expanded as a way of allowing employees to give the employees something as opposed to having a group health plan. There was a proposal, the DOL did a proposal for an expansion of 5500 reporting. It was supposed to be in place in 2018 and 19. I think that's dead. I think wellness rules will be simplified, which is a good thing. I think contraceptive coverage is going to be limited. I think, especially with Mike Pence as Vice President, I think they're going to find acceptance for that. So you proposals that if an employer has any objections at all, I think that's not going to be covered under any type of coverage any longer. Same thing can be said for gender transitional services. That was part of the discrimination rule of Obamacare. That was Section 1557 that went into effect. The rules came in that were roundly criticized. I think those rules are going to be eliminated probably sometime next year or the year after. And again, individual income tax, they're going to allow deductions for individual premiums. All the proposals have there. But again, in exchange rates, they're going to limit or eliminate certain deductions. They're going to put premiums and other deductions. It's going to be interesting to see what deductions are limited or eliminated. And also, you can see certain tax credits eliminated to broaden the tax base. I think people that have not paid taxes before may see some of their credits eliminated, and they're going to go down in the income base, so people pay some tax. In retirement income, they're going to roll back or eliminate the fiduciary rule that was supposed to go into effect in April. They're going to weaken federal disclosure protections. They're going to expand multiple employer plans. There's been limitations, and I think those are going to be expanded. They're going to encourage state IRA incentives. They're either going to repeal or modify Dodd-Frank, which again required certain disclosures. That's going to be eliminated. Any lower tax rate on the individual side or on the corporate side is going to make deferred comp programs non-qualified less attractive. The elimination of alternative minimum tax could make incentive stock options more attractive for both size and larger employers. Also, for worker protections, you're going to see the repeal or replace of the DOL final overtime rules, and the Congress has already started to act on that. They're going to slow increases the minimum wage. They're going to delay any pay equity or equal employment opportunity issues. They're going to leave any leave, paid leave to the state or local governments. There's not going to be a federal law in that regard to that. There was a crackdown on both the DOL and IRS and independent contractors, and you're going to see lessened enforcement in regard to that. As many employers returning to that, turning individual employees into independent contractors. Many people call them 1099 employees. Both the IRS and DOL were cracking down on that, and I think you're going to see less enforcement of that. So what should employers do? Well, as I said before, for employer-sponsored health care, I think the mandate may stay in place in 2017. I think it probably would probably be eliminated in 2018. Before it will stay in play in 2016, it may be eliminated in 2017. As you can see from all the proposals, HSAs and HRAs are going to be favored. On the retirement side, you can see reporting and fiduciary rule change. You may see a reduction in what people can put away for retirement income. You also, because the tax rates are decreasing, you may see a reduction in the interest in having Roth. Because there are certain individuals that are going to have a decrease in tax rates. For executive rewards, you're going to find disclosure of wages are going to be lessened. And with lower taxes, cash is going to be more preferred. Instead of getting benefits, people will want cash. Worker protections, the overtime rules, I think, are going to be one of the first things that may be eliminated by Congress. These regulations were supposed to be in place in December. They were delayed by court order, and that court proceeding won't go until March. I think that's one of the first things that may go. Minimum wage and pay equity pressure is going to be off. Again, as I indicated before, for paid leave, no federal paid leave. It's going to be state and local development. So, Amanda, any questions?
We have a couple. Hold on one second while I get the window open. Will filing 1095s go away if the penalty is dropped for those not covered?
Yeah, it will eventually go away. I think as soon as the penalty goes away, I think that's when the 1095s will go away. So, and again, it's the difference between the carrot and the stick. So if it's a carrot, there's really no need for the filing any longer.
Okay. And then another question was, what does it mean that the full-time equivalent definition is eliminated? Would an FTE be 40 hours per week, or would it be less?
I think it's going to be up to the employer who they provide coverage to. So that's one of the round provisions of Obamacare, and I think that's one of the things that's going to be any employer responsibility to provide coverage. And it's going to be interesting to see whether there is any restriction on who you can, for deduction purposes, who we have to give coverage to. So, because many employers hated the 30-hour requirement, and that's going to be an elimination that's going to be deemed to be elimination of a job killer. So, that everybody complain about that requirement.
All right. If you have any questions, please just hit the raise hand button, and I'd be happy to unmute you so you can ask them, or you can type them below. Andrea, you're unmuted.
Are you on?
Oh, they ended up typing their question. It was more of a housekeeping thing. For those of you who weren't there, here at the beginning, we will be emailing you a copy of the recording of this presentation as well as the slides by the end of the day today, as soon as we have everything downloaded and taken care of.
I'll be following these developments pretty closely, and so I'll probably be releasing more stuff on this as time goes on. So I think 2017 is going to be a busy time because eliminating here is going to be one of the first priorities of the Trump administration. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, whether they nibble around the edges or they go the full jugular in this situation. But I think eventually it will be eliminated. Whether it's going to be over 6 months or 12 months, it's going to be, I think you're going to see, I think in sometime that next year or the year after, I think you're going to see most of the provisions of Obamacare going. And again, replaced with a carrot as opposed to a stick. Okay, anything else, Amanda?
I don't have anything else here. I don't have any more hands raised right now.
All right. Well, and again, if you have any questions, that's my contact information. I appreciate you attending, and hopefully you found it helpful.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Again, we'll see you on December 27th for our next webinar about untangling your notice requirements, and see you soon. Thank you.